Live from the CBS Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is CBS2 News at 5 p.m.
Sky 2 over the scene of breaking news now at 5. Trouble in the air and tragedy on the ground. A pilot is killed in a deadly plane crash in Sylmar. Good evening, I'm Crystal Cruz.
And I'm Suzanne Marquez. Federal investigators are now heading to the scene of that small plane crash.
The single-engine Beechcraft went down in a field along Encinitas Avenue in Sylmar near the 5 and 405 freeways. CBS 2's Brittney Hopper is live in Sylmar with this tragic story. Brittney.
Crystal and Suzanne, sadly, one person did die, but this could have been a lot worse because on this side of me is the freeway, and then on this side of me you have a lot of homes and a neighborhood. But behind me, take a look. That's where investigators are doing their investigation. But let's go to some video from earlier. Now, it's still very early on in the investigation. We do know that at 1:50 p.m. a call came in. A plane needed to make an emergency landing. The pilot was the only person in the plane that crashed in a field right next to the 5 freeway. Now, we're told several Good Samaritans pulled off the freeway and tried to help the pilot before emergency crews got here. We're told firefighters had to use the jaws of life to get the pilot out. Now, sadly, again, he did die at the scene. Now, the plane is registered to a Scott Fraser Watson out of Marina del Rey, but investigators say that doesn't mean that that's the pilot of the plane. Now, we're told federal investigators are on their way right now. If we can come back here live, we are told that in about 2 more hours, another news conference will be happening. We, of course, will be out here all day and night, and we will be giving you the very latest as new information comes to us. For now, we are live in Sylmar. Brittney Hopper, back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Brittney. We're moving to some breaking news. New evacuations in the Holy Fire.
Desmond Shaw is live in Sky 2. Desmond, looks smoky out there.
Oh, very much so, Crystal and Suzanne. We are on the southern edge of Corona, looking at an area called Glen Eaton. This is one of the last big fiery areas here of the Holy Fire that scorched more than 22,000 acres and has been burning for almost a week. I'll zoom out. You can see just how hazy it is here. We have to do a lot of magic with the camera just to bring this to you. But this is the community that is under evacuation. It is a Trilogy Park. It is a senior retirement community. And so those evacuations are in effect. We are on the southern edge of Corona, well south of the 91 freeway. I do want to show you kind of some relatively good news here as I pan over to the Lake Elsinore area. You can see over here there's almost no smoke. I don't see any open flame even in this area. And you can see that line of phos-check that was dropped all around this homes looks like it really did the trick here. So no doubt firefighters getting the upper hand on this one, but a long way to go. I believe containment is still under 50% at this point for the Holy Fire. Live in Sky 2 overhead, I'm Desmond Shaw. I'll send it back to you ladies now in the studio.
Thank you, Desmond. Fire crews are making progress against the largest fire in California history. The Mendocino Complex fire has now burned more than 331,000 acres, but it's 70% contained now. 146 homes have been destroyed in the blaze. Officials don't expect the fire to be fully contained until September. And the weather hasn't been helping in the firefight. Let's check in with meteorologist Markina Brown. Markina, how's it looking?
Hi, guys. Actually, we're not looking that bad. When we go to places like Lake Elsinore that Desmond just talked about, we're looking at temperatures in the upper 80s. As we know, it could be a lot worse in terms of temperatures. We could be much hotter and humidity levels could be a lot lower. But right now we're at 42%. The winds are gusting up to about 16 miles an hour. And in the Corona area, we're looking at 86 degrees. Those winds are out of the west at 14, gusting at 14. Relative humidity there is at 43%. So we've got even cooler temperatures in the forecast, believe it or not. For the short term, I'll let you know how long you'll get a chance to cool off before we get hot again coming up in just a little bit. Ladies, back to you.
Thanks, Markina. A fire destroyed the Big Oaks Lodge in the Santa Clarita Valley.
The lodge is on Bouquet Canyon Road in Santa Clarita. The fire started late last night. CBS 2's Adriana Weingold spoke to disappointed patrons.
Flames exploded overnight at the Big Oaks Lodge near Saugus. The nearly 100-year-old building burned to the ground. Michaela Berberat is a bartender here. She was working last night and can't believe what happened.
It's amazing because I was just here less than 24 hours ago, and for it just to be burned to the ground like that.
The Big Oaks Lodge is somewhat of an institution. Nestled in the old sycamore trees along Bouquet Canyon, it once served as a stagecoach stop. In later years, it was a place for amateur boxers to train and fight, and in more recent years, it drew a local crowd, bikers and bands from across the country.
It's sad. It makes me sad. It's history. This has been here forever.
12-year-old Bella grew up running around this property. Her grandma used to own the Big Oaks Lodge and says even back then the electrical wiring was, in her words, a little funny. Bella can't believe this part of her childhood is gone.
My grandma and I wanted to see it for ourselves to see if it actually burnt down, because it was like, well, we know that it had a possibility and it survived a couple fires, and it's like it felt impossible.
While the Big Oaks Lodge may have been lost, things could have been much worse for the community, with thick brush surrounding the property. But firefighters were able to stop the flames before they spread to the Angeles National Forest. The cause of the fire is under investigation. The community out here hoping to see this place rebuilt soon. In Saugus, Adriana Weingold, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Adriana. Investigators are piecing together what led up to a deadly shooting involving a sheriff's deputy at an East LA housing complex. CBS 2's Joy Benedict says it all started with a report of an armed robbery.
It was a scene that was hard to miss in this East LA community. Crime scene tape, a white tent in the distance, and those who live here know exactly what it means.
It was just like bam, 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 like continuous shots.
One man shot and killed by Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies.
For all you mothers that are out there, just hold your babies every time they leave this house.
Lisa Vargas arrived shortly after the shooting. She used to live in this complex. Her 21-year-old son was here last night for a birthday party, and at 2 a.m. she got a call from friends.
They told me it was possibly my son.
And so she waited.
He's a great kid. He used to work at the community center here in East LA.
The hours passed. Her family joined her. And still she waited.
Even if it isn't my son, there's somebody else's mother that's out there that's going to be going through the same thing that we're going through.
Investigators say this whole thing actually started here about a block away when a man walking down this sidewalk was robbed at gunpoint. He told investigators the two men that robbed him took off into that apartment complex. When deputies entered, they approached four men who immediately scattered in different directions, and they called for backup. More deputies came.
They saw an individual who looked at them and immediately took off running, but quickly fell.
When deputies approached, detectives say a fight started between the deputy and the man on the ground. The man on the ground was shot and killed by the deputy. Investigators say the young man did have a gun on him, but they're not sure if he was a part of the robbery.
He has a lot of heart. Anything that's going on here, he should not have been involved in.
As for this mom, she was still waiting. But as more time passed and she still hadn't heard from her son, it became harder to hope that she would.
My mom was the last one to see him, and he kissed her and he told her he loved her and he'd be back, and you know, it's really, really hard. It's really, really hard.
Joy Benedict, CBS 2 News.
Counter-protesters greatly outnumbered white supremacists in Washington, D.C. today. It was one of few rallies on the first anniversary of the deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Tony DeCoppel has the story.
Police escorted a group of white supremacists through a much larger crowd of counter-protesters ahead of the planned Unite the Right rally in Washington, D.C. The white nationalists gathered in Lafayette Square, just across the street from the White House.
We're here for the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Violence or oppression. Activist Jason Kessler organized today's demonstration and the event in Charlottesville, Virginia 1 year ago that led to the death of counter-protester Heather Heyer. Kessler says there's a lot of anti-white discrimination in this country.
White people should have the same treatment as any other groups. We should be able to stand up for ourselves.
People united will never be defeated.
Counter-protesters gathered early today in D.C. Many say they came out to make a statement that there is no room for bigotry in this country.
I'm here because I am a white person. I don't want to be associated with the neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and that hate.
In Charlottesville, there was a massive police presence to keep demonstrators peaceful.
We're here to heal.
Heather Heyer's mom urged people to fix what she called a huge racial problem in this country.
I don't want other mothers to be in my spot. I don't want other mothers to go through this.
Last year, President Trump did not initially condemn the white nationalists involved in the deadly attack. This year, he condemned all types of racism to mark the anniversary. Tony DeCopel, New York.
Coming up, Omarosa's bombshell. She's sharing what she calls secret White House recordings.
And a successful launch that'll hopefully make history. Ahead on CBS 2 News at 5.